Hey, another show, another Inspired Good Fat Life podcast. And we are so excited with our guest today, Sharon McRill from the Betty Brigade. Hey, Sharon.
Hello.
Hello. And so I just have to take a moment and say, where this is Good Fat Life, where um, are we start with good fat. So our belief is, and lots of evidence that says if you start with good fat, then you feel great and you live a good fat life. And so our guest today is, like I said, Sharon McRill from the Betty Brigade, and she's going to talk about what happens when we have order and cleanliness and ease in our home. And Sharon, you can expand on that and what happens to your energy and to your clear thinking. So, and I personally will share some stories that I'm so excited about Sharon coming to my house.
I was just
Um,
going to say, are you willing to share what's going on at your
I,
house?
you know what I am. I'm just like let's. When people say share what's going on with them, it just makes me take a deep breath and say, hey, there's no judgment here, right? We're just all have each other's kind of backs for living our best life. So yeah. So welcome, Sharon.
Thank
So
you. I'm happy to be here.
so good. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and the Betty Brigade and what you guys do and all the joy you bring to the people you work with.
All right. Well, I am the owner and founder of the Betty Brigade, and I have been doing this for almost 19 years.
Wow.
And some days it feels like it's been 2 weeks, and some days it feels like it has been 1,000 years, and I'm ready to be done.
Right. Especially when it's a cold day in Michigan, right? It just doesn't help. So
Yeah, absolutely. But we specialize in organizing people's stuff and their homes. We also specialize in helping folks relocate when they have been in those homes for 30, 40, 50. And we just uh, were hired by a family that they had been in the same home for 60 years,
wow.
60. And that is a long time to be in the same house. So if you can imagine, every nook, every cranny, every closet, every little hidey hole gets filled when you're in a house that long.
Well, so my grandparents were in their house that long, and when they had to move, we've probably found over 100 screwdrivers that my grandpa would always spray it with orange paint so he knew it was his. But I don't know what it was. It was like you need a screwdriver in every room, in every drawer. But we figure he just forgot that he had them, and so yeah, and it's a big stress for the family having to go through their parents' houses like that.
It really is. And people really don't anticipate the amount of stress. And so, like, for example, we have clients say to us, well, I'm not going to do this now. I'm just going to let my kids do this. And they don't get what what a gift it is for their family when they do that clear out, because when the homeowner is making cognitive decisions about what's important to them and what's not important to them, then that also reflects in how much work the family has to do. Because, okay, so let me give you an example. um, you're clearing out a house, and I'm sorry, I've got a hair in my mouth. So you're clearing out a house, and there's the normal stuff, the everyday stuff, dishes and couches and TVs and that kind of thing. But then there's taxes, there's important paperwork, there's the memorabilia, the all the family photos and the kids artwork and the love letters and all the stuff
The
that has
degrees.
been, yeah, that has been saved for years. But then there's the stuff that you got from your friend or your cousin or your neighbor of, oh, okay, another candle. Well, I don't really need another candle. I'm just going to set this out, but I don't really like it. And so there's just this there's so many layers of stuff, and it's the reason I say it's a gift to your children or to your family is because when you make decisions about what's important to you versus what is important to them, then it makes things a lot clearer. Um, because then the family really understands where your head was when you sorted it out, and why they should hold that thing, whatever that thing is, in its own importance. And this is really tricky because a lot of folks that we work with have gone through the depression, so they put importance on things like aluminum foil and rubber bands and bread bags and I'm not joking,
Right. No, I know.
and
My grandparents
screwdrivers.
did. Yeah, exactly.
So you end up with all this stuff that means nothing to your family, but that homeowner is holding on to it.
So one of the things that happened in our family that, to your point, is there was so much stuff that it was overwhelming for my dad to, process with his parents' stuff. That stuff got thrown out. The really important stuff got some of it got thrown out. The priceless
Mm.
stuff, because it just got caught in the mix, and so that's something we've been really mindful about. Is like what's really a treasure. Well, and even then, it's a treasure to me. My kids may not care; they may care less. Who knows? But it's that, not letting it all go out with the bathwater, right?
Right. That is true, and um, people value things differently. So, for example, folks that went through the depression put a high value on the good china and the good linens and the big, heavy, solid wooden furniture. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly good stuff. However, when fast forward to Gen Y, Gen Z, those folks, kids, let's call them kids because they are under 30, um, are they do not value stuff the way their parents and grandparents value stuff. They don't care if they've got a good bed. They don't care if they've got a vacuum cleaner. They don't care if they have a good set of dishes. It's just not important to them.
Or even a
So,
matching silverware, right?
right. So there's different, just a different level of priority when you're talking to different generations.
So tell me, what happens. Let's talk about the energy of stuff now.
Oh,
A little bit. So, because I know you've been on the Dr. Phil show, and done some work with hoarders, and so
not I was going to say not as one of his clients,
right,
as a
right.
guest
As a
expert.
There you go, as a guest expert, and so that was really cool. And so then there's hoarders, but then there's just people that just like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm a borderline hoarder or stuff, but I have a hard time throwing stuff away. Um, and let's talk about the energy of that. What does it do for you to have extra stuff that you don't need around, especially with
Well,
COVID? I mean, we've like it's all hanging
yeah,
around us for the last 2 years.
right. And here's what I'm going to say. If you didn't do your organizing and clear out when you were sitting home, like with nothing else to do but watch Netflix and like you weren't going to work and you were just sitting home. So if you didn't do your clearing out then, you are not going to do your clearing out on your own. I'm just going to say that. Okay, so the energy of stuff is just like the energy of everything. So like people are energy. So imagine when you invite people over to your home and you're having a party and you invite all these people, and sometimes they are people that you want to be there and you've invited them and they show up, and sometimes people show up and you don't really want them to be there. For example, like maybe it's um, the the maybe a family member has gotten back together with a spouse where there's some conflict, and you don't agree with them being back together, but they're in your house and you got to be polite. So imagine that energy of like, oh, I got to be nice to this person who's in my house, even though I don't really want them there. So, so I'm just going to equate that person with the gifts that you don't really want.
Mm.
Um, and then there's the people that just stay and stay and stay. And we've all had that happen at a party where
That is
someone
so
has
interesting when you think
someone has
about that.
out yeah, someone has outstayed their welcome. Um, and that is the stuff that kind of ends up in your closets, in your corners. Like it shows up and it stays and stays and stays. Um, and then there's the stuff that the people who you really love and you love to see them and you love to hug them, but maybe they are a little bit worn out. Maybe they are older or they've gotten worn or they're tired. So think about it from that perspective, that there are people like that too, or maybe people, and we all have people like this in our lives that just drain us. Like
So
we are.
let me say something quickly about what you're saying that because it's so true. Our dog, when our last dog got ill, I mean, they were fine. They were just getting old, and the hips kind of worked, and they got draggier and draggier, right? And when they actually passed, it was like all of a sudden our home became so much lighter. And I didn't realize how much the old dog that we loved to bits was just dragging the energy of the house down. I had no
Mhm.
idea. That is so interesting when you put it that way. With
So I want you to think about it. Okay, so like stuff is a guest in your home, just like people are a guest in your home. And you should know that I have never ever used this analogy before. This is like I am just
it's just coming
like
through, but it
it's
makes
just
so
coming
much
through.
sense.
So for example, when there are things that you people in your life that you totally forgotten that they're in your life and then they show back up. That's just like when you go through a box of stuff from 20 years ago and you're like, "Oh, I totally forgot that this was in here. Oh, this is really great. I really want this." Or, "Wow, I don't want any of this stuff," and it can all go away. So I want you to start thinking about that. And I'm not saying dispose of people. Let's be really clear about that. I
Right,
am
right.
not saying dispose of people in your life. What I'm saying is that people are energy and stuff is energy. And when you remove the stuff that isn't supporting you, that isn't lifting you, that isn't moving you forward in some capacity or supporting the needs of your daily life, then like when you keep that stuff in your life, it's pulling you down. It's holding you back because when you remove it, then you open up the space for new energy to come in. And this is Sherry, this is the conversation that we had before you went on your little break. And
I
and
know, I
and
know, and
you were resistant.
I am. So just full disclosure. So we had a water um, a break in our. We have a well, and the well thing. I don't know. Highly technical terms here kind of blew up, and so we had water everywhere. So we're having to have wall board and carpets and all the stuff in our lower level where my office is, all moved. And Sharon's part of the Betty Brigade is they have a handyman service, and so of course we hired them because we know what amazing work they do, and so they've been in our house moving all this stuff. Well, I have been a stacker. I'm a piler, and my office was never designed to be a full board home office, and that's what it is. So um, I was mortified to have anybody that I know, love, and trust in my office, and but Sharon's like, no, we can, and she's right. I've never done it. It's not what I wanted to do. If I had an hour, that's not where I would be spending that hour. Even though I know I would be getting rid of bad energy out of my space. But she's like, we
And
can come in.
let's not call it bad energy. Let's call it stale energy.
Okay, I like that. Or older energy, or just, yeah,
Dusty
dusty
energy.
energy. And I honestly just don't have the bandwidth of my head to go through stuff. It's too much energy to say, because most of the things there, I would say, a large stuff I love. You know,
Mhm,
there's beautiful fabrics and books. I mean, you know how attached I am to books.
mhm.
So I love the idea. So Sharon's like, we can come in and we're just going to help you, and this is what we do, and it'll be easy and it'll be painless, and you'll love it when it's done. And I thought, what the heck? Why wouldn't I? It's like me saying to somebody, hire a bookkeeper. you know, you'll feel better when you know your numbers. And she's doing the same thing for me, and I appreciate that.
Well, the funny part is, and what most of you don't know about Sherry is that she also is our part-time CFO. She has helped us with the books of the business, and I am not naturally a numbers person. I am good at looking at space and figuring out where that stuff goes, and unknotting chaos. Looking at a jumbled up mess of stuff and going, oh, this goes here and that goes here. That's what I'm really good at. I am not good at spreadsheets, and Sherry is really good at spreadsheets, and she made sorting out our number stuff painless. And I want her to feel like what that feels like from a stuff perspective.
So, and I get that. I get that. And I'm so excited. So that's going to happen as soon as we get done with the other stuff. right? But
Yeah, let's get the wallboard and the paint up.
yeah, exactly. But I can't tell you what, because of the way you presented it. And also I've started to have that idea that it's help. Like, I don't have to feel that pit in my stomach and the overwhelm of doing this. And also going back to a gift from my kids. I would never want my children to have to deal with this mess. And so it's like all of a sudden all kinds of things are possible. And it really is exciting. So
Well,
thank
awesome.
you. Yeah,
You're
no,
welcome.
I'm
So
excited.
so a lot so I because I'm hearing clients talking in my head, right? And this happens all the time. My dad said that nothing is leaving the house until he dies. Sometimes that's how it works, and it it's sucky. It's sucky when it works that way because you don't have your dad's um, cognitive decision making when that happens.
Mm,
So so this is why we really encourage our clients to do this work before their kids have to do it.
mm. Oh, I think it's a terrible thing to put on your kids. I mean, really, when you think about it, it's a terrible. We were blessed with my husband's parents and my parents to it now have just said, We're not going to do to you what grandma and grandpa did to us." And it wasn't like grandma and grandpa were trying to be mean. It's just the way it evolved, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was just so you're right. So it's exciting. And since you put it that way, I've been thinking, well, what do? So it's like opened up the whole world of possibility, right? And I see people, as
Right.
people are downsizing, they start having this conversation. It's like, what's possible for us now? How do
Mm-hmm.
we want to live? What do I want my office to look like? And
Exactly.
yeah, so when you said that, it's like, at first it was like, oh, I don't have a clue. And now it's like, oh my gosh, it's like it opened the whole world up, right?
So one of the other comments that often comes up, and this is another yucky thing, but it happens, is that sometimes we have the adult kids say, "Well, that's my inheritance. You're going to take up my inheritance."
Mm,
And here's what I have to say about that. It is not their inheritance until their family member passes. So they need to just slow their roll because that's not okay. It's not okay to have that conversation. It's not their money.
Yeah, and then that's a tough one. You're getting into some real finance, family kind of stuff there, right? Yeah.
Well, and that's where we just turn to the homeowner and we say, "This is your money. It's your decision. It's not up to your kids."
Mm, yeah. Well, I'm glad I don't have to have some of those conversations, but I agree with you too. It's it's so so what else have you kind of noticed? What are you noticing now with the as we're moving kind of out of COVID and there's a lot of people moving and um,
Well, there is an intense shortage of places to move to. So there is what they're calling a low inventory of homes. And I had lunch with a real estate agent today who said that. He said, "There's no inventory." He said, I can't even, I've got buyers, and there's not enough sellers for the amount of buyers." So that's interesting. And so what ends up happening is that the buyers end up paying more money for these homes. So he told me that um, one of his houses got the buyer offered $70,000 over the asking price. That's a
yeah,
lot of extra money to pay for a home. You must really want that home.
yeah, yeah. No, it is. It's kind of the world we're in right now, right?
And
Well,
it doesn't so it doesn't necessarily need to be that way. Um so like for example, if like a lot of our clients are moving into senior communities, so they don't need to move into, like, they're just waiting for their apartment to be ready, their new apartment. So it just
got it.
needs to be painted and have new carpet and be cleaned. And then they move in, and then they can sell this house where they've been doing all this maintenance, um, you know, lawn care and snow removal and painting and, you know, plumbing and all the stuff that goes wrong in a house. And they don't have to do that anymore. And so then it's suddenly like, oh, well, and can I tell you a story about Mary?
Sure.
Okay. So there's this woman named Mary, and she lived in this very, 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 very full apartment. It was stacked almost to the ceiling. Um, and I don't know that I'd call her a hoarder. I think she just had a really small space, but it was very full. And she was resisting moving and resisting moving and resisting moving. And finally, she decided to move the week between Christmas and New Year's. Now, guess what? A lot of people don't move the week between Christmas and New Year's. Um, and because a lot of people want to take that week off. And we said, "All right, Mary, we'll move you that week." So we moved her, and we moved her into a senior community. And she was really nervous about moving in. So a couple weeks goes by, and I'm sitting in the lobby of the senior community waiting to meet with somebody. And this woman comes walking up, and her hair's done, and she's wearing a dress, and she's wearing makeup. And I didn't recognize her, but it was Mary. She looked 100% different. Um, her demeanor was different. How she carried herself was different. She was uplifted and happy, and she came up and she apologized for dragging her feet about moving in. She said, "I had no idea what I was missing and how isolated I was." And so that's where we see a big difference of the change of energy, because a lot of times folks are in that home that they've been in a long time because they don't want to move, because they don't want to lose those memories, or they don't want to lose the familiar, but they don't recognize that there's something better on the other side.
Got it. And I hear that. I hear that all the time. Excuse me. You hear it with and friends that are now kind of in that sandwich generations where they're taking care of their parents because their parents can't take care of their house and all their stuff anymore, and then they get them moved into a someplace else, and they're just elated because there's all kinds of stuff going on and new energy. And so that was another thing that I love that you guys do is that you know how to get rid of stuff. So, like, you have shredders, you have ways of getting rid of furniture and clothing and all of those things. And so you make it so easy, which
And
is,
and and it's not easy. We
well,
make it
you
easy for
make
the
it
clients,
easy. Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
not easy for us. Um, there's a lot of effort that goes into emptying a home.
So you make it look easy. Yeah.
Well, yes, we
Yeah.
do.
Kind of like the Olympics. They make it look easy.
Yes, but without the steroids
Or the politics, right?
or the
So anyway,
politics.
well, I'm really excited, Sharon. I just have to say, of actually, of just having spending this time with you, and knowing what you're going to be doing for me personally, and for my home, and kind of what's possible, and what you do. I see what you do every day for your clients, the rave reviews
Yeah,
that they give you, and how their lives change.
their lives do change, and we are always hoping that that changes for the better. And sometimes people aren't moving. Sometimes people are just organizing, like you. And sometimes people are relocating. And sometimes, like we had this one couple, and they said, "Hey, we're selling everything, and we're going to travel, and we're going to have an RV, and we're going to take our dog in the RV, and we're just going to we're just going to drive around the U.S." And we were like, okay. And so they sold like 90% of their stuff. And they were like, okay, good. Because they knew they couldn't fit it in the RV, and they
Right.
didn't want to.
Right. They need space to get new stuff. So, well, it's great to have options, though. So, anyway, well, so now I need to take a little moment and do a little shout out for one of our sponsors, which is Snedecor's Cleaners. They come to your house and they pick up your stuff in their yellow bag and they bring it back to your house all clean and ready to go. And they're environmentally friendly. Your clothes come back cleaner than when they left. And there's no chemicals or any of those nasty things. And we just are thrilled to death. That's another area of my life. I just said I want ease, right? Um, Peace and ease around my clothes, so that I can just go to the closet that's too full, that's soon to not be so full, but and get my clothes ready to go. So thank you to Snedecor's Cleaners.
Yay,
So share.
Jim.
Yeah, yeah. So do you have one thing that you would say to somebody who's kind of not sure what to do or on the fence about the world, the condition of their home,
Well, I
where to
think
start?
there, where to start is, do you really want to continue living in the same place and doing the same work that you did for the last however many years you've lived there? So if you've lived in your house for 30 years, the amount of energy that you have to mow the lawn and shovel the driveway and wash the windows and all of those things, is that something that you want to continue with? And so I would just ask you, what is your priority? What do you want to do? And start moving towards that,
Yeah.
because it's stuff. And yes, stuff has memories. But if there were a flood or a fire, you're not going to save your sofa. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like we're dealing with the stuff that the flood. So you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm actually grateful for it because it's forced me to look at things differently.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. Well, thank you so much for being here, Sharon. And if people want to find you, where do they go?
The easiest way is bettybrigade.com. And if you want to book a consultation, it's normally $250, but we go ahead and waive that if you say good fat life. So
I did not know that.
yeah, so if you saw me speaking on the Good Fat Life show, then just say that, and we will waive the $250 consultation fee, and that's where we put together an entire plan of everything you need to either organize or to relocate out of your home. So we bring in not just what we do, but handyman services, cleaners, junk haulers, estate sale people, consignment dealers. What do you need? And we create a custom plan just for you.
So that's awesome. And I know that you work really hard to vet those people. So it's a great experience for everybody.
Absolutely.
So that's good. Okay, well, and if you want to learn more about Good Fat Life, go to goodfatlife.com, and we have the magazine. It's in this beautiful paper copy or digital, and we have a new issue coming out in the next couple weeks. And until then, Sharon, let's go out and live our good fat lives. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.